Hi guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host Indira, and today I'm joined by Jasmine Wood. She was the first British woman to finish at the Paris Marathon. She recently took her first England vest, and she's only been running for a few years, and she's a sports science student at Durham University. And in this episode, we talk about her experience of coming to the sport really late, being self-coached, and having a go at some of the longer distances and marathons. She's run 4, by the way. This is also the last episode in season 1. It's been an amazing season and I can't believe how successful the podcast has been so far. So thanks guys for all of your input into it, and I hope you've enjoyed it. We will be back for season 2 and I'll announce when that's going to start soon. And like always, if you've been enjoying the show, please show your appreciation by giving the podcast a rating. You can do this by going to the podcast home screen and selecting 3 dots. It should give you the option to rate it. Really helps the podcast out, helps me keep being able to get great guests on, great experts. And yeah, this podcast is free, so if you can, costs you nothing, please give it a rating. And let's get into it. Okay, so Jasmine, hi, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Thanks for having me. I'm so good. How are you?
Yep, doing well. Have you had a busy day or easy stuff?
Very busy day. Busy day moving student houses. I'm sure everyone knows how much faff that is.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Going well so far?
Bit hectic, bit crazy. This new house seems to be an absolute pigsty. No cleaners have been in there, but it's okay. We're gonna get through it. Stay in this house for as long as we can and then move next week or something.
Okay, well, it sounds like there's a sort of plan or a goal in mind. So, that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Okay, and so let's get into this. So you're someone who came a little bit later to running. You've since, made huge improvements. You took your 10K down from 52:15 in 2019 to 35:33 in 2023. Significant improvements in, all of your events. So how did you get into running?
Well, ever since I started secondary school, I was quite a small girl. Like, they chucked me into the 800 on the athletics. My school was quite an athletic orientated school. We used to go to Watford track and do all the local district athletics meets. And because I was quite small and light, I could get myself around the track quite quickly. So they kind of just chucked me in the 800. I'd do it quickly, just have a bit of fun. And I usually won the race, and it kind of gave me that motivation. And I think as soon as I got qualified for my first English schools cross country, it was the last year I could have ever qualified for it. And I'd never really heard of it before. And then obviously the whole COVID thing happened, and I really started to get into running then. And I entered my local 10K. I'd never run a 10K before. I think I did a 6 mile. I had to walk half of it, and then did the first 10K. Loved it. And then the next year I was like, oh, I want to do it again, but I do the half marathon version this time. And I think lockdown, I know it's the stereotypical like lockdown runner, but lockdown really helps because you have so much time to focus on yourself. You really can just go out, run. I remember 2 miles was my daily run. I'd go down the lane and back out because that was all I could do without being absolutely dead and having to have a large glass of water. But yeah, definitely lockdown helped with the running, and then going to uni really helped as well, and having so many people. And I do feel as well, having the marathon and half marathon goals as set points really helped with channeling a training program towards those goals and then doing little steps along the way.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's really interesting because, it's definitely a different entry point into running. A lot of girls kind of come traditionally up from join the club, do this, do that. At any point did you join a club, following on from English schools? I mean, obviously it was straight into lockdown. That was, pre-lockdown, guys, if you're not sure where we are for time frames right now. But yeah, what did that feature?
Yeah, I mean, I did ballet. That was the sport I did right from a really, really young age. And so I did that all the way through until I was 16, 17. Did all the grades, got to the end, and it was kind of at the point where there's not really a point in carrying on and not doing anything else. And I was really, really enjoying athletics at my school. And I remember, so one of my friend's parents came up to me after a district athletics match in Watford and said, you should really join a club. You should join a club. And Watford Harriers was obviously the local one. So they were like, you should join Watford Harriers. I ended up joining Hillingdon in the end because it's a lot closer to where I live. But I joined them in 2019 around the start of 2019. It was just the regular come down on a Tuesday, do a couple of 400s, and that was the training. But it was definitely a very different vibe, and it got me into it a lot more and actually doing training sessions when before I just ran.
Yeah.
Ran, walked.
Yeah, well, you gotta keep things interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so you mentioned how COVID was definitely a pivotal point for you in terms of your running journey. And I guess if you were, at a club before that, did you maintain a relationship with your club during COVID, or at that point did you kind of take things into your own hands?
I mean, with all the training sessions got cancelled, postponed, put on hold, there wasn't really much the club could do because obviously there was no competitions, nothing going on. They did the standard sending out training sessions you could do on your own. Obviously, being by myself and no one in my family runs or does that kind of activity, it was really hard to motivate myself to go and do those sessions. So I did end up just doing more regular runs and just easy running, easy training, no sessions as such. But then they did a couple of 3K time trials where they just asked you to go out and just time yourself doing a 3K. I was a bit of a cheat because I just ran downhill the whole time because there was a hill near me. I just ran downhill. I was like, look how quick I can go, guys. But yeah, so with the whole COVID thing, it was definitely hard to keep up training sessions. But I think because I was doing PE for one of my A levels at school, and that obviously my whole A levels were during COVID as well, it was really hard to be assessed on running, which was one of the sports I was going for my PE, without having competitions and races. So I ended up cycling to a couple of tracks that you could book out during COVID and basically just doing a couple of sessions and filming myself doing those. They were all just sessions I found online though. It was like sessions to make you faster, that kind of thing, all on Runner's World. Those kind of sessions.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Gosh, yeah, I didn't even
Yeah.
think of that side of things in terms of, the A levels. But where you mentioned they're going online to find training and stuff, I guess that's where more of a kind of self-coached aspects come in and a bit of a more unique perspective. So what's it like going through that process of, sourcing out your own sessions with very little running knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, so when I started really getting into running and watching, I had a TikTok page actually, and I started like doing little running vlogs, like trail running and that kind of thing. And I absolutely just became a total nerd for it. And I actually really enjoyed reading up about running and all the different systems because I did PE anyway. So a lot of the physiological stuff came quite naturally. But then finding out about the training sessions was definitely a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I ended up just searching sessions that will help you improve this, sessions that will be beneficial if you're doing a 10K. And then I'd go on the first couple of websites, see it, find the session, run the session, and then I would adapt it myself into something that I personally enjoyed, that kind of thing like that. And also I did training runs, and I would find, because I couldn't just run slowly, I found it very hard to just run slowly, which is I know what I should have been doing at that point.
Yeah.
But I would usually do like a mile hard and then a mile easy and then alternate that. So I was doing sessions really without even knowing it. But then obviously I developed my knowledge and found out what I should be doing and started the session easy run kind of regimen like that.
Okay, interesting. And so then following on from COVID, when we finally came out and races started opening up again, I mean, you made some, solid improvements then. What did that look like for you? And, how was running different?
Yeah, I mean, so I did the first 10K in 52 minutes. Very, very cute, very fun. And because it was at an event where they did a 10K and a half, which is similar to quite a lot of events, the next year I thought I was decided to do the half marathon because I was very like, just wanted to get the t-shirt that said half marathon on it really. I was very t-shirt orientated at the start of my running. I would only enter races if I got a t-shirt at the end.
Fair enough.
That was my primary goal. But I did the half marathon. I remember it was a 2-lap course pretty much. And I did the first 10K. I think it was in about 46 minutes. So immediately I said to my mum, I was like, I'll just run a 10K PB in the middle of the half. It did take me almost an hour to do the second half, which is fine because I had not trained for it at all. But then I really was like, okay, so I could actually do quite well over the 10K, and that was in February. And then in December, I broke 40 for the first time. It's not on Power of 10 or anything, because it was one of those run through Olympic Park, Chase the Moon, 5K, 10Ks, if you know the ones I'm talking about. But yeah, and I broke 40 just at that point. And that was definitely a changing point for me. And I was like, oh, seeing these improvements so quickly gives you so much motivation, and it really makes you think what else you can do with your running. It definitely spurs you on to actually train for things.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, I mean, that is incredible. And, to bring everyone else up to speed, her half marathon, she took that from a 1:42 in 2020 to a 79:11 this year. Yep. Amazing stuff. And yeah, so when you say that gave you the motivation, what did you do with that motivation, or how did it manifest itself in terms of, actions towards improving your running?
Yeah. I mean, after that 10K happened and I got that great PB, for some crazy reason, I thought, oh, let's go do an ultra marathon or a marathon. I think, oh, I'm trying to think of the timeline actually. Yes, I did an ultra marathon at the start of 2021 because I had no idea of the running route and I just wanted to run as far as I possibly could. So I ran the Endurance Life Sussex ultra marathon. It was a 55K along the coast of Eastbourne. Absolutely ridiculous. I could not walk for about a month afterwards. So I did that, and then it was Brighton Marathon. Did that in just under 3.5 hours. Annoyingly, there was a whole faff with Brighton Marathon because the course was 600 meters too long that year.
I do remember hearing that, actually.
Yeah. I remember looking at my Garmin. It was like, you just won your fastest marathon. I was like, where's the finish line then? It was not great at all. But I finished that in just under 3.5 hours, which was the whole like Boston qualifier thing. And that really, really spurred me on. And then I started uni in that year after Brighton. And university was honestly the best thing that like happened to my running. Getting into the running routine, always having people to run with. There was always an easy run on a Monday and then a session on a Tuesday. And just having these set things to go to honestly helped so much. And then I broke 3 in Edinburgh that year, which was like a 40-minute PB, which was ridiculous. And I was like, wow, oh my gosh, I love running so much. And my whole like just running nerd just absolutely came out.
Yeah, no, that's incredible to hear. And I mean, obviously a lot of talent there, and just kind of being able to train in the right ways and get the most out of yourself. Would you say that there's anything in particular that stands out to you? I know you mentioned the consistency at uni, but anything specific to maybe how you're training or new training techniques that you started using?
Yeah. Definitely the regular easy runs with the sessions. Before I was kind of just doing an easy run here and there, but it wasn't really easy because I didn't feel like I should be going slow. I was like, I'm not improving if I'm going this slowly, and that kind of thing. Definitely consistency. There was always an easy group run on a Monday. We went the pace of the slowest person, which like ranged from 8-minute miling to 9-minute miling sometimes. So it was always super easy, about like seven miles every Monday, like clockwork. That was an easy run. And then I'd have a session and then long run on the weekend, followed by other. It was consistency was definitely one of the big things that helped. But also, yeah, having people around to spur you on.
Yeah, of course, that must have been the biggest change, because I suppose, having come out of COVID and all of that, it would have been completely on your own. How much would you say that's kind of changed your perception of running?
So much, honestly, so much, because being back home and obviously with COVID, no one in my family runs. I'd literally have to pay my sisters to come on a bike next to me while I ran. I was like, I'll give you a £5 if you come with me.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. But then going to uni and joining the athletics club and seeing that there are actually like so many other people that have this same love for it as you do just makes you so happy, and you just want to go with them, and you meet all these new friends. It's so great. So great.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant to hear. And I guess now you're at uni, would you say that you're still self-coaching in any way, or how's the relationship changed?
I mean, for the majority of uni so far, it's just been marathon block after marathon block. So I had just finished Brighton, then I went straight to Edinburgh, and then I went straight into London, then I went straight into Paris. So I haven't really had a chance to actually settle down and work on 5K speed and 10K speed, which is what I'm doing now. And I'm actually doing a 10K race tomorrow. So hopefully another PB there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think going to you, I've just forgotten what the question was. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry at all. Right, now see, now we have a problem because I also don't remember. Yes, so for anyone else who was in the moment and also didn't remember the question was about how her relationship with self-coaching has changed, what that looks like now that she's come to uni. Okay, back to the episode.
Okay, so with the self-coaching at uni, I mean, I went down to in the Freshers Week, all the trial athletics events. Obviously, I didn't go for the sprints because that just wasn't for me. I knew already that distance was what I wanted to do. So I went to the trial event, really liked it. Me and one of the other girls were front running with all these guys, and I was like, oh, this is so much fun. I love this. And then I went down to one of the first actual evening sessions, and it just put me off it. It was grass reps in the dark, in the mud, in the rain, absolutely horrible. It was so slippery. I didn't have spikes on. I was in these slippery road running shoes, could barely get a grip on the mud because it was just a bog. And I didn't go back to a single training session in the dark with the athletics team after that, just because it was so horrible. I just did not enjoy it at all. But I found it because I joined triathlon at the start of the year, because with the whole ultra marathon mindset, and I wasn't really quick over these 5Ks. I was doing like 18 and a half minutes, I think, about this time, 19 minutes. So I joined triathlon because realistically, I was like, I'm going to do an Ironman. I want to do an Ironman this year, and then I'll do a proper Ironman next year. So I did the triathlon track sessions, which were on a Tuesday and a Friday. So I always went down to the track on those days and did those sessions, which were set by one of the members of the exec, which I think was still a student at this point. But with the self-coaching, it definitely changed. I would always be writing a training plan for a marathon anyway. So when I would self-coach myself for a marathon, I would get onto Excel, write a marathon spreadsheet for 16 weeks, 12 to 16 weeks with key long runs, and then basically put races in there as well. So I'd have a 5K race once a month and all those kind of things. So I'd have the basic mileage I'd be doing, but then the sessions were pretty much set for me by members of the exec. And if they weren't there, I'd sometimes run my own sessions, which was usually, let's do a 10 by 400 or a pyramid or something like that. But now I think in particular, definitely self-coaching with the easy runs, but I'm having my session set for me by a couple of people who really have believed in me, and with seeing improvements. I've had a couple of people reach out and be like, if you're doing this session, you can improve even more, and that kind of thing. And it's kind of been listening to these people and putting my own preferences aside of just wanting to do marathon after marathon, because you do get addicted to it, even though you're putting yourself through so much pain for just under 3 hours. You do get absolutely addicted to it. And as soon as I finished Paris, I was like, I want to do another one this year. Like, which ones are in October? Which can I do next? But you get yourself into that marathon regimen, and you really don't think about how you could improve over the shorter distances. But then when I got my England vest for the 5K, I was like, oh, okay, so I could improve over 5K if I actually dropped marathon for the rest of the year, which was honestly one of the hardest decisions to make, to throw the marathon out the window for the rest of the year and focus on the shorter distances.
Well, I mean, first of all, yeah. I mean, congrats on the England vest. That was incredible and really nice to see. And there's definitely a lot to unpack there. But first of all, let's just bring it back a little bit. What motivated you to stay on the longer distances? And, you talk about wanting to do an Ironman there, especially, those are kind of renowned for being some of the hardest kind of events out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're only about 2 years into running at this point. So, what was the main kind of driver for them?
Honestly, it's very random, but during A-levels, I got into this phase of watching these ultra marathon documentaries on YouTube, which are all by this guy called Billy Yang, and they would be super dramatic, super intense, these awesome drone shots of these people running super far. And I just thought it was absolutely awesome. I was like, I want to do that. And then I got into watching Ironmans as well, and Lucy Charles Barkley's YouTube channel, which is so great to watch. And I just really wanted to do it. And honestly, I know it sounds crazy, but I was spurred on by the fact you get a t-shirt at the end. And then for Ironman, you get a rucksack.
So your Achilles heel is a t-shirt. All right, Jasmine, give you a t-shirt, go do this, yeah?
Yeah, no, it's so true. It's so true. But then, yeah, when I got to uni, I thought, okay, I did my first triathlon. I'd never even done one, and I was like, I want to do an Ironman, and that hurt a lot. But yeah, definitely. I don't know. I just really enjoy going far. I just love running so far. And in lockdown, I would go out and just run for like an hour and just go around and see the sights and do this and that. But I just enjoy going for long periods of time. I find it quite easy to get into like a rhythm and just keep going. I feel like it's more rewarding as well, like going for so long.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes when it comes to, I know I always find when it's building back from an injury or something, they're like, oh, go run for 5 minutes. I'm like, well, I'm not putting trainers on for that. I'll just not do anything for 2 months and then start back at like 30 minutes, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, got to make it worth it. Value for money as well. No, that's really great to hear. And I think, let's maybe talk through an experience of running a marathon as well, because, we haven't had anyone talk about that yet. I mean, you are pretty quick, less than 3 hours. So I guess it's not, like you're plodding out there for 8, but what is the mindset like? What are the peaks and troughs? And did you ever hit a wall?
Oh my gosh. Well, it depends which marathon we're talking about, because each one is so different. I've run 4 now, so it's like there's been highs and there's been lows. I think the lowest was definitely London in October last year. So I went into it on a niggle. I basically, the week before, I did a session which I remember was 3K, and then it was 10 by 200s, and then it was 1500, like time trial sandwich, really. I twinged something in the 200s, because obviously I was marathon training. Why on earth did I decide it was a good idea to do 200s the week before a marathon? No idea. Did it anyway, went into London with a bit of a niggle. I hadn't done any of my tape runs because of this niggle. It was just in my front quad. I dosed myself up on ibuprofen, again, a bad idea before a marathon. Ran the marathon, and then I got to 30K, so like 18 miles, and it just went. And I was on track for a PB, but the last like 10K, 12K was just absolute like start, stop, cramping. Had to turn my music off because I was just getting so stressed out. Got to the end, and then I actually couldn't walk for like a month after as well, because I don't actually know what I did in the end. I went to a couple of physios, just the ones my university provided, and they were saying it's like sciatica or something. And I went to him straight after the marathon, and he just said, you've got an inflamed hip. And I was like, I've just run a marathon, like everything's inflamed. But then I went back after everything had settled down, and he said the standard, like, oh, you've got a weak posterior chain, you've got weak glutes, all that, you've got sciatica. So I went through a whole recovery process of that. Was on the watt bike every day, getting through it. And then Paris Marathon was just a completely different experience. It was honestly like one of the best times of my life. I know that's crazy, and obviously, yeah.
Were you delusional at the time? Any chance you just passed the point?
I mean, I got a t-shirt at the end, so yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, Paris Marathon was just definitely the highlight of my year so far. It was just a complete switch up from London. I only really had 10 weeks of specific training for it, but it was just absolutely amazing.
Okay, and so I mean, Paris, you ran 2:50, incredible time, and first British woman. Like, that's insane. So what made Paris so great for you, if you could pinpoint something?
Yeah, I mean, Paris Marathon wasn't originally the marathon I was going to do in spring. I knew I was going to do a spring one. I was signed up for Edinburgh again, so I PB'd in Edinburgh last year. It's such a beautiful course. You literally run along the coast and then run back along the coast, and it was just you could just smell the seaweed, and it was so salty and fresh and lovely and just great. But so I was going to do that one again, But then the opportunity to run Paris like presented itself 10 weeks before. Basically, so Podium, the race company, messaged me and asked if I wanted to run Paris and if I was ready to run a marathon in 10 weeks. And they were like, sports shoes will pay for everything. You can go out there, run your marathon. Everything's right. And I was like, yes, 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 yes. I would have been absolutely a fool to turn down that opportunity. So yeah, went to Paris. It was just absolutely great. The day before was a little bit like because we were doing almost 30,000 steps, taking photo shoots for like ASICs, which was a little bit intense the day before a marathon. I think the girl I was with, it was a little bit like, we just need to lie down in bed now the day before instead of running around on the metro going to the Arc de Triomphe. But yeah, it was so great. And I think having a team to go like with a team instead of going, because all these other marathons I've pretty much just gone by myself and got it all sorted by myself, but going out with a team and having all the logistics worked out for you and not having to worry about all that, and all you have to do is just go and run, it was a completely different experience to what I've experienced before.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I just want to kind of interrupt you a bit there. So you say going out with a team, doing a photo shoot with ASICs, like what's the situation here?
Yeah, so basically sports shoes and the sports ASICS' company as part of sports shoes, so sports shoes and then like the little sub brand ASICS from sports shoes, works very closely with Podium. So they basically wanted to do a marathon campaign, and I've noticed a lot of shoe companies are doing this, like running companies are doing this year. So I've seen a lot for Manchester Marathon. Adidas did one with Manchester. Under Armour, I think, did Barcelona. ASICS did Paris. And it was, honestly, I think it's the best way for these shoe companies to promote their brand at these marathons. Just get a couple of runners who are more than happy to run a marathon if you just pay for their entry, and then kit them out and then just take a few photos of them. It's basically just like free advertising. It's great. But yeah, so all I just had to wear the ASICS kit, which they sent me before so I could train in. And honestly, I really, really like their shoes. So it's so great. And then just all they did was take photos. I was basically just being moved around, run here, run there. We'll take a video of you doing this, doing that. And then the hotel was sorted. The whole team was like so lovely. The lady that coordinated it, Claudia, loveliest person ever. And we all just went out as a team. We went out for dinner. We went out carb loading. It's just so great. And it's nice to have people that are really enjoying what you're doing with you at the same time. So like I was with the girl that I ran with, Sarah, and we were going for a very similar time. So we just ran together for quite a lot of it. And we were on the start line together, like surrounded by all these men, like tall men. And we're like, oh, okay. A bit daunting because they all speak French. But yeah, it was just yeah.
Oh wow, no, that's really, really cool. Okay, and so in terms of actually, pacing a marathon and racing strategy in a marathon, how do you know what sort of speed to start off at, and what's the pacing like?
I mean, usually for marathons, I've just gone and see what happens. So for Brighton Marathon, which was my first ever marathon, I thought, okay, if I can go under 4 hours, I'll be happy with that. I feel like that's quite a good goal to have. So I joined the sub 4 hour wave, and then I was just feeling really good. I did almost pass out on the last 6 miles, but we got under there in just under 3:30, so that was great. And then Edinburgh, I again just went out on feeling. Because I'm still pretty naive to the whole like marathon, what goes on with marathon training. I just went out, go off feeling, see how I go. And I ran a lot quicker than I thought I was going to. So that was about 2:56. And I was like, wow, like I've just PB'd loads and I've got no idea what I'm doing. And then, so then I did London. I think London was the first one where I actually went in with a goal. So I really wanted to, I wanted to break 2:50, sub 2:56, and then break 2:50. So I went through half in 85. So I was like, okay, I'm on pacing. We can negative split this. It'll be fine. But then obviously my leg just went and it was a whole disaster for the last 6, 7, 8 miles, which wasn't great.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah. I think as as you do more marathons and as you build your knowledge, your running knowledge and your running fitness in general, your pacing just naturally gets better. So for Paris, I knew that, again, sub 250 was my goal because I ran, I think, 303 in London because I just died. And so I was like, okay, we'll try again in Paris. Sub 250 is the goal. Had a bit of a mare because I went out, was all good for pacing. I thought I was flying. I was really trying to reserve the first half. Had a bit of gastro toilet troubles when I got to 20k. So it was a do or die situation. I had to go into the Porto at 20k.
Oh no, yeah.
And I said to myself, because I knew it was going to be quite close to sub 250, I was like, okay, don't stop your watch. Like, just let it run so you know your elapsed time. Went into the toilet, dashed back out, tried to catch up with the group I was pacing, ran like a 550, which is not what pace I was going for, aiming for like 620s, which is not good. Bolted it to try and catch up with the group I was with, got through. We went through half, went to look at my watch, and I was like, okay, let's see what time we're on for halfway. And it goes resume workout, and I'm like, oh my God. I just had subconsciously paused it when I got into the loo, which is not great. So I'd run about an extra 400 meters plus loo trip, and I didn't count the 400 meters in. So I was like, okay, I couldn't have been on the loo for more than a minute. That was quick. But then, so I thought I was great for time with the sub 250. So I was like easing off, making sure I had enough energy for the last 3-4 miles, which is where it gets really hard. But then I went through the finish line, stopped my watch, and I was like, great, I was definitely under 250 there, 100%. Finished it, looked at my elapsed time, and it was 250 with 04, like 4 seconds.
No.
And I was like, oh my God, I forgot I'd run 400 meters as well. So I had to add like an extra 2-3 minutes on, 2 minutes or something. So that was not great, but it's okay because I know I had like the sub 250 in me, and I've spoken to a lot of people about it. And I think being so young and running these marathons, it's very different to being like 28, 29 and doing the same.
Definitely.
Because you see, yeah, like I spoke to a couple of people about it. I was speaking to someone who basically said that my 5k 10k times should equate to a much faster marathon, but because I've only been running 3-4 years, I just don't have the mileage in my legs yet to be able to have that speed endurance for 26.2 miles yet. Yeah, so hopefully that's definitely something I'll be doing in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's got to be so much there. And in terms of that whole, you mentioned there, you haven't been running that long. You are still really young for those kind of distances. Did you feel that it took any toll on your body? And in terms of actually racing it, what did you do in terms of like energy gels and stuff like that during the race?
Yeah. I mean, for Paris, I did energy gel every 5 miles. So what kind of time would that be? Yeah, energy gel every 5 miles, really. But that was a very different strategy to what I'd done before. So for London, I also did energy gel every 5 miles. Usually for a couple of the other marathons, I barely fueled because I just didn't realise how much of effect fueling has on your body. But for Paris, I was chatting to someone from England Athletics who was basically guiding me through what is going to really benefit me in the marathon and how I can get that PB. So I was doing treadmill pace runs and practicing with energy gels, which is just something I'm not used to. I don't really like energy gels anyway. I just think they're so gross, so gloopy and disgusting. I cannot find a single one I like. The isotonic ones are too runny, and then the other ones are just like pure gloop. And it's not for me. It's not for me.
It's a difficult one, yeah, for sure. But okay, so you're talking to someone from England Athletics. Did they, how did you get in contact with them, and how did that conversation start?
So basically, I got an email from he's called Tom Craggs, and he messaged me, after there was a 3K in Italy, and he basically messaged me saying that it was a very close selection between me and someone else. And the other girl I'm not who she was, but she ran great, I'm sure. But it was between me and her in the selection, and she ran quicker over 3K. So he basically got in touch and said, look, I've been looking at your power of 10. You haven't been running for very long, and you're running marathons, and you're still like 18, 19. what's your running plan? Like, what do you want to do? And so I basically got in touch with him and told him about Paris and all this, like how I love doing marathons. And he basically said, send me your training plan that you've written and I'll have a look over it for you and see what can be done better. So I basically sent it to him and we had a little Zoom and he went through all these long run sessions, which was just like 15 miles easy or 18 miles easy, 20 miles easy. And like, why are you doing 20 miles easy when you could be doing like a session? And I'm like, what? So you should be doing a 20-mile session. And he really just opened me up into these different ways of training for a marathon and definitely benefited me like by getting the PB in Paris. And yeah, and I think having that contact there was actually really good as well in getting selected for the 5K in Cardiff, which was the England Best opportunity. It was a couple of weeks after Paris. So I was a little bit of like, my body might be finished by the time I do this 5K. But it all worked out well. And the recovery was all good.
Yeah, I mean, also, your 5K took that from a 1926 in 2020 to a 1640, this year. So was that at Cardiff?
1640. So I ran 1640 probably about a month ago now. So I think I ran 1642 in Cardiff. So I ran, so it was 1645 in February, then 42 in April, 40 in May. And I've got another one in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully get that down again.
Ooh, exciting times. Okay, because earlier you mentioned moving more to kind of focus on the speed for now and having to kind of put a pause in the marathon. Was that something to do with, Tom or?
Yeah, so just getting higher advice from people that really know what they're doing with running and basically just being asked, like, what are your running goals for the next 2 years? Like now you've got this England vest and you're actually achieving things with your running and you're making yourself known a little bit with running and you're like podium and you're getting on the podium at some of these races. What do you want to do? And I was like, well, realistically, I'm not going to get an international best for marathon in the next like 5 years. I'm no Becky Briggs, like come on, not yet. And it was kind of like, what do you want to be doing? And I've got an entry into the Great North Half in September, which is something I like really have been wanting to do, but we're still in the talks of maybe putting that to the side because there's also a 5K that weekend, which might be more suited if I can get my PB down. So this summer I'm basically doing 5K, 10K specific stuff. So hopefully another 10K PB tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I've been working all week on my feet, which is not fun, but hopefully another PB tomorrow and then another 5K in a couple of weeks. I just go to this like local one in York it's on a cycle track. You just do 5 laps and they've got the timer up for every lap. So it's so easy to pace yourself. And I've always PB'd on that course. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, something that I've definitely picked up on is you don't seem to come across as someone who gets particularly stressed or is kind of overplacing too much value in training. It seems like you've got a nice balance. Would you agree with that? Yeah.
I just love running.
I mean, that's what we want to hear. That's what we want to hear. And do you think there's anything that's kind of helped you to maintain that? Because a lot of some of the girls we've had on the podcast already have mentioned how, with the increasing success has come increasing pressure or, it becomes more of a stress. What have you done to kind of avoid that?
I don't really think I've actively done anything to like avoid this kind of pressure. I mean, maybe I haven't been achieving these kind of things that will give me the certain pressure, but I think because I started running so late and all these like getting on a podium at a local race is such a new experience to me. It's all just exciting. It all just fills me with excitement still. And if I don't do it, I of course, like most athletes, I'm sure I do get frustrated if I don't perform at my best or if I feel like I could have performed better, even though I got a PB. I'm like, I got a PB, but I definitely could have run faster than that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like these are more just things I internalize, which is probably not the best thing to do. But I just internalize them within myself. I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, you didn't run that well. Who cares? You can get over it. Just run better next week. Do you know, do you know what I
Sounds
mean?
like a good strategy to me. I mean, I think that sounds healthy, but I mean, I'm not a psychologist, so don't quote me. But
Okay, fine. Good.
in terms of, the local 10Ks and stuff, you've done quite a lot of them. Would you say there's something different or special about doing kind of, I guess, less, under 23, Southern Championships, I guess, like defined races?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, with those kind of like Southern chaps, I've never really done them anyway. I've never done like the cross challenge, or I was supposed to do it last year, but I got stuck in Leeds on the way to Liverpool and it was absolute nightmare with the train. But I've never really done any of the age group kind of competitions, so I don't really know what I'm missing out on, what they're like. To be fair, I'm planning on doing a couple of them. I've been roped into some sort of cross country season this winter, which I'm not looking forward to because cross country is the bane of my life.
Oh, really?
I really don't like cross country at all.
Okay, to be fair, after you said you didn't like the grass field so much, you were like, right, that's it for the season.
That's it forever.
Some hatred.
I'm never going back on a field. No, but I think with the local races. So I'm from like down south anyway, like Buckinghamshire, Hertfordshire. I moved up north for uni at Durham. There is such a good running scene like going on in the northeast. There are so many races which are very popular in the area, especially in Newcastle. I did the Bladen race, which is very popular, a couple of weeks ago. Absolutely amazing. It was a very random distance. It was like 5.79 miles, but it was just so great. And the support you get and seeing all these local runners coming out and all the local runners starting to know who you are, it's just so much nicer. And I feel like down south with these races, I don't really know what's going on. The only ones I seem to do when I'm back home are the ones they organise in London, like the run through ones, which are not like, they're fun and you get a cute little medal, but I feel like you could be pushing yourself more at that point.
Yeah, no, that's really nice to hear. And it's especially great to hear about that kind of sense of community and stuff like that. And I was just having a look, actually, your 5.7, nice 31.27. It's a shame there's no Power of 10 ranking for that, because that seems pretty quick.
I mean, I got an unofficial 5K PB during it, so hopefully.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you've got a few coming up in the next few weeks, but no, that's really great to hear about that side of things, because I think it's definitely nice to kind of enjoy other aspects of running other than, I guess, strictly just everything's for a purpose or some sort of league or something. Okay, and something else is, it seems that you've managed to avoid kind of having any major injuries or setbacks. Would you say that's true so far?
Pretty much. I mean, the only really injury I've had was the one I went into London on. I definitely shouldn't have run the marathon. But in my head, I was like, I paid for my entry. I paid like £60 and I don't want to lose that. I'm a broke student. Like, I'd rather get something out of it. Even if it is not being able to run for 2 months. But I'm not actually sure what that injury was. I'm not at that level in my running where I feel like I want to go and pay £200 to see a physio and get a diagnosis. So I basically just...
They'll tell you to do calf raises anyway.
Exactly. So. This is exactly what the guy said. I went to my uni, was like, you need to do more squats, you need to do more glute bridges. And I was like, okay, then you need to get in the gym more. All right.
So what isn't weak then?
Yeah, what's wrong? Just what's right with me? But it was it was something in my hip, and I'm pretty sure it was a nerve or something. I'm pretty sure it was nerves, to do with nerves. And it was basically just all down the front of my quad. No idea what it was, but I did watt biking, cycling. I was absolutely dedicated to going into that gym all the time and doing S&C, calf raises, squats, stretches, absolutely everything I could. And then getting back into running, it was literally like 20-minute run every 2 days or something like that, every 3 days. Really, really slowly getting back into it. I decided I was going to have a few races in November, December, but I decided it was so hard, but I decided to just totally write off the rest of the year. So that was in the beginning of October. And I thought, okay, write off the rest of the year. Don't do it. And I started again in January, and that's when I ran the Brass Monkey Half Marathon, which was the 79. And I went into it basically on 4 weeks of training, like, oh my God, I'm really scared. My injury might come back. But the way I thought of it was that I was like, okay, so you trained for London Marathon, you did a whole summer's worth of training. That training is still in your body. You just need to unlock it. So I was like, okay, let's just unlock the training. And then it went it went quite well there.
No, that's so great to hear. And I mean, mindset's everything. And I think sometimes people do get a bit too caught up on, a single session or a single week or even a few months. Like it, in my experience anyway, it's not too detrimental. So no, that's really good to hear.
At the time I was like absolutely distraught, and I was so grumpy, and I was running around the house like, oh, I can't run, I'm so sad, guys. But then now I'm like, oh, come on, it wasn't that deep.
Yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Yeah. Oh no, that's really cool. Okay, and so I guess, if we start wrapping up a bit now, in terms of, your experience with running so far, what would you say is kind of the one thing you would have done differently if you were, take it back a few years?
Like race plan wise, I probably wouldn't have done much differently, because I feel like it's all got me to where I am today. But I feel like I probably could have just actually sucked it up and actually just ran slow on those runs when I first started out, and just take it easy and not try to push every run and go absolutely super fast. I know it's a very stereotypical, like, easy runs easy, but I wish I had actually done that at the start instead of just pushing out and then learning that I needed to do it through other methods.
Yeah, no, definitely. And do you think that your approach of kind of having quite a lot of autonomy over your own sessions, your own training, has been something that, I mean, I guess you can't speak for experiences you haven't had, but something you think that may have helped you be able to keep enjoying and performing at running?
I do think so, yeah, especially because I found my love for the sport completely on my own, and I got into it in my own methods, and I wasn't pushed into it by my parents or anything like that. And it was just something I enjoyed and found a love for by myself. And then definitely the sessions, like tailoring them to what works for me and what I enjoy, what I don't enjoy. Obviously, you've got to push yourself. And I feel like now having people with me at uni to help push me is so much better, because it just pushes you that extra bit that you weren't pushing yourself before. Because if you're by yourself, it's easy to say, oh, I'm not going to do this last rep as hard as I should, I'm just gonna do it, and that's it. But when you're with other people, you've got other people watching you to get you like, come on.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what is your go-to post-race celebration?
Oh, lying in bed with a bag of, no, it's so bad, Sainsbury's do a packet of really, really disgusting processed chocolate donuts. There's like 10 mini ones in the bag.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You know the ones I mean?
Yeah, they're really good.
Sit in bed with a bag of those and watch Star Wars.
Oh, you know what? That sounds pretty decent. I'm a bit disappointed there's no t-shirt though. I was hoping,
I know,
might have dropped that in there.
This race I'm doing tomorrow is the first time ever where I said you can donate a tree instead of giving me a t-shirt.
I mean,
I feel so proud.
I support the environmental contributions, so yeah. All right, nice one from you there. Okay, and number one marathon training or racing tip?
Ooh, get up early and do it. Don't procrastinate throughout the day. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Get up, get your clothes on, go and do it. Don't wait around.
Right, get up, get out.
Yeah, get up, get out. Don't wait around.
No waiting, guys. Okay, and what is your most ambitious running goal to date?
Ooh, most ambitious? I don't know. I mean, my goal at the moment is a GB vest in the next 2 years. So hopefully we can get on a roll with that. Need to get my 5K, 10K down a bit. But yeah, eventually, I know it's like stereotypical, but everyone wants to go to the Olympics, don't they? Maybe not. Yeah.
I mean, you never know. You've been out to Paris once already, just jump right in there.
Bad. Maybe I'll go volunteer. Still at the Olympics, isn't it?
To be fair, it could be fun.
Exactly. I'll go there.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, no, thank you so much for coming on. It's been really great talking with you. Loads of great insight into kind of the marathon, especially and stuff. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Absolute pleasure. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, be sure to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. This really helps to get the content out there. I'm new to this, guys, and I want to make this podcast the best possible for you. So go follow Fitter, Faster, Happier on Instagram. That's Fitter, Faster, Happier to leave your questions, comments, and feedback, and for updates and guest requests. All the best for the week ahead, guys. Run happy, live happy, be happy.